Well, it's just a few weeks before the opening of a new year, but also a new session in Hartford. This is Meet the Leaders. Good to have you along with us. I'm David Smith, and with me is Representative Fred Camillo of the 151st District. And he has been on the job for a good few years and weathered the so-called wave, if you will, this past November. Congratulations on your reelection.
Thank you, David.
Good to see you as always.
Always good to be with you.
It is a new look to the House and to the Senate. The Senate had been tied after the last election. Now it is very well defined as a Democrat. And the House, which had been fairly close after the last election, now is overwhelmingly Democratic as well. And of course, you've got a new Democratic governor. What is that going to mean to you as a legislator and to all of us as constituents?
Well, on one hand, my first several terms up there, I was used to that. My first term up there, we were 37 House Republicans against 114 House Democrats.
I'd forgotten that.
So yeah, and it's not even that bad now. So at the end of the day, you work hard for your constituents and for policies that you think will help to benefit the state of Connecticut. I've been able to work very well across the aisle on my own personal bills and on larger bills that affect more than just our district. So that won't change. And I don't know a lot of the new people. I know some of them I've met already, but I don't know a lot of them. So that's always interesting and a challenge to get to know them, so you could have a good working relationship. But there's still a lot of people up there that I know that I've always worked well with. So that won't change. On the other hand, there is concern now because you're seeing reports now that maybe the more progressive wing of the Democratic Party, some of the members are saying, oh yeah, we're going to do A, B, C, and D, but what comes next? And people, I've already seen 2 people in my district put their house on the market that had threatened to do that. And we want to keep people here. We had a fairly balanced legislature, as you just alluded to. The last couple of years, we got things done working together. I just hope that continues, because right now there's really no firewall. So I mean, the major issues that were contentious the last several years that maybe were not called on the floor will now be called, and there will be the votes there to pass them.
The new governor is something that I don't know, a lot of people may not take into consideration as much as they might. The difference between him and the outgoing governor, and I know that the others who were running for office tried to tar Ned Lamont as being Daniel Malloy and so forth, and obviously that didn't work terribly effectively. But he is a different person in every way imaginable, and maybe that will enable him to work better with both sides and get both sides to be as cooperative as we need in the state. We've got to get things done, as you suggest.
Absolutely, Dave. I mean, we're not getting any younger, and I don't want to say, well, I'm not going to work with this guy because he's a Democrat and because I think he may do A, B, or C. No, I think you're right. I think they're 2 different people, and you got to give the person a chance. I mean, he's going to have his own record now, his own legacy. So, and I think he wants to leave a good one, and I hope that he was really watching what didn't work the last 8 years and some of the things that did work. So, and he comes from the business world. So. He did serve 1 term as selectman in my hometown many, many years ago. I'm old enough to remember that. But I wouldn't say he's run for several offices, but I wouldn't say he's a career politician, because he's been in the private sector most of his life.
Well, now, as you suggest, down your neck of the woods and throughout southwestern Connecticut, transportation is a key. There was the question on the ballot regarding the lockbox and so forth. Tolls rear their heads every year, or have for the last 5 or 6 years anyway. Where do you think it's going to go this year?
I think it's inevitable now, because they have the votes. I look at it this way: you look at both sides of this debate, and there's some really, I think, significant, compelling points on both sides. At the end of the day, one of the arguments that the proponents of tolls will use is that it's not a tax, it's a user fee. And I've always a user fee is more discretionary. A user fee is when you get your beach card or you get your card to go play golf. We don't have a choice. We have to use 95. So you're taxing people. And I worry about the nickeling, diming of people, working class, middle class, who are really struggling now. And when we took the tolls out in the mid-'80s or late '80s, there were 14 tolling places. Now there's going to be 82 gantries. On the one hand, it'll allow for a free flow of traffic, which is great, but it's still going to cost money. And by their own studies in Hartford last year, just a 10-mile commute was anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500. And that's the studies I saw. That's a lot of money just for a 10-mile commute.
How about just trucks?
Well, that was brought up, and I always thought that may be an interstate commerce violation. And sure enough, Rhode Island is doing that.
Yeah.
And the trucking industry has them in court. So we can.
Hasn't been determined at this point.
Hasn't been determined. So I think we have to wait back and see how that one resolves itself. But certainly it's interesting. I think the trucking industry may have a case there, but I'm not a lawyer, so we'll have to wait and see.
And marijuana legalization, yes or no?
I think that's coming. There's so many arguments for. I voted for the medical marijuana.
That's a different animal.
Different animal. What holds me back on this, because there's so many arguments for it now, the only thing that gives me pause is the health part of it. I haven't met a doctor yet that said it's good for you. And now I have tons of friends who are totally in favor. It doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. They want it legalized.
Yep.
And maybe we'll see what the final bill is. New Jersey or some of these states are, they're pushing them up to 21, some of the proposals. And that's okay. But you got to have some, I want to see what the parameters are, what the guidelines are going to be on this, because, again, I'm just a little nervous. I'm a health advocate, worked on a lot of issues for, good health. And there's something tearing at me inside saying, because I really sometimes will find myself leaning towards voting yes on this. And there's something they're saying, do a little more research on it. So I won't, but I am open to it.
It is not going to be a dull session.
No, it's not.
That is for sure.
No, it's not.
Hey, Freddie, it's great to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for being with us.
Always a pleasure,
Glad you
David.
could take some time out. We'll look forward to seeing you up in Hartford.
A couple weeks.
You got it. It's a date. Representative Fred Camillo, our guest on this edition of Meet the Leaders. And yes, it will be only a few weeks, well, maybe 6 or so, before start of a new session. But for right now, that's Meet the Leaders, and I'm David Smith.